Good day, chaps and chapettes. It's Average, and welcome back to the channel here, and today we're taking a look at the Flight Replicas Spitfire Mark V. Yes, the most commonly built of the Spitfire Marks. This is the 1941 kind of early vintage. This is the one that started being issued just after really the Battle of Britain was coming towards its end point. Now, it first flew in 36 for the Spitfire overall, and it was used by the Royal Air Force and other Allied nations before, during, and after World War II. And many variants were built from the Mark 1 all the way to the Mark 24, according to the manual from Flight Replicas, which is accurate. Over 70 remain airworthy, and there are many, many more in static exhibits. The Mark V was a Mark 1 with a Merlin 45 series engine, so a better engine, delivering 1400 horsepower at takeoff. Incorporates a new single-speed, single-stage supercharger, and improvements to the carburetor, in allowing it to use zero-gravity maneuvers without any problems to fuel flow. So that's a really big advantage for dogfighting. So advantages learned there from the early war years and the Battle of Britain's early days. The Mark 1 and Mark 2s were converted to Mark 5s in many cases by Supermarine, and most of those were built at Castle Bromwich. So more of these were built than any other type, 6,400. Now you get a bunch of liveries here, and there are two variants to this. This is where it's a little interesting. We get, with one package for about £10, the Mark 5 and 5 clipped wing, and then for another package of £7, you can get the Tropic. I did not get the Tropic because the only difference really is an air intake, which doesn't matter in the sim. And granted total, the both of them add up to the same cost as the package for the Mark 1s. But yeah, seems a little bit weird to sell them separately. Neither to sell them in one go. Either way, let's take a look at our aircraft here. In El Simo. We're in third person. Let's go back into the cockpit here. We'll go outside. And we'll take a quick look around. We're at Carnarvon here. This is Orbex's Carnarvon in North Wales. So I like the early war camouflage on these. The brown and green, the Battle of Britain era. A lot more than the grey. But really nicely built. Like their Mark 1. Looks very good in the exterior. I'd say when you're comparing Spitfires, of course, this is a marketplace one. So the gun ports are all covered. And the covers are authentic. But they are all covered, of course. These ones were actually doped over every time the things, took off again. Because it's more aerodynamic to have them covered. And they fired and it went through the doping. That's simple. It was literally just shot through the fabric. Those, of course, were a little cap. Same difference, but not. Also, stops rain getting there before, you actually start fighting. Overall, oh, okay. Bit of a couple of seams there in the actual texture. Could be higher res, I suppose. But not bad. Of course, hard to compare it to the Flying Iron Spitfire. That one is really the gold standard so far in the sim. But it's certainly not bad. I like the fact you got wear and tear there along the edge of the strip that goes joins the wing, because those do sometimes get removed and worked on. So there would possibly be those having the panels removed. Makes some sense sometimes. Otherwise, looks very nice. Quite like it. Let's go inside, take a look. Let's get her in the air, and we're going to go take her a bit of a spin around some North Welsh terrain. So, of course, got our manual up here. We'll use this specifically to go through the correct procedures here. So, in our cockpit, everything works as one might intend. Pull open the canopy. Now, the Mark 1 didn't have great sounds, but it wasn't awful. So that's unlatched, and then we'll go one again to close that. Close it by clicking down here, and then click again to latch it. Because if it's not latched, and you're in this situation, where it's over there, which is what happens if you open it, and then close it, and then get confused where you can't click the latch to close it, which is another weird one we had with the Mark 1. Here, click, and then click in the bottom position again, locks it, and then you can close the canopy. We're not going to do that yet, because we generally take off with it open. So we'll do that for the time being. And okay, let's get ourselves ready for rock and roll time, shall we, with our little beauty of a Spitfire. I love the Spitfire, is one of my favourites. So, master battery switch to on. Has it actually registered the actual switch input? It has. Excellent. Mags are set to off. They are indeed off. Undercarriage light is set to down. Undercarriage light is green. Flaps are set to up. They are indeed up. Landing lamps are up. Fuel tank quantity for lower tank, we don't get the top tank, of course, is full. We have good read there. So brakes are on. There, and you'll notice our brake pressure. Here, get rid of the yoke or put it back in place, so that's always good. Mags to on. Fuel valves to on. Fuel pump will go to on for our start. Open covers and press till start. Now I suspect a portion of this is due to my honeycomb, so I'm going to use that to start it instead. No. Okay. Interesting. Everything else is, you know what, I haven't primed it. That's probably why. So fuel pressure warning. Right, let's get some pressure in here with the primer. A couple of pumps and... starts like a dream. I'm an idiot only sometimes. There is that. Okay, so preparing for takeoff, we'll need to make sure we have our rudder trim to the left. To starboard, actually. So we want to go this way for starboard. Okay. We want a little bit of nose down. There. Exactly what we wanted. We don't want too much. We want a little bit of nose down for takeoff, just so she maintains her positioning. We'll close those caps. Turn tank pressurization off. Okay. Looking swell. Texturing of the interior is actually rather nice. I do like it. Everything's clean. A little bit less... interesting. I like this. Information friend and foe system. Of course, this is the radar area of the Spitfire, so wonderful to see that. It's a harness release system there, of course. Nothing to worry about. The Morse indicator, of course, for our radio. And up here we have... I believe that's the Morse clicker. I could be wrong. Either way. Of course, no hand pump in this one, because we actually have got tank pressurization in the aircraft. Let's get ourselves ready to rock. So, leave that where it is. Everything's good here. Of course, if I press the actual shortcut on the keyboard to my parking brake, it will not do anything. I will have to do it, however, on the controls here. I'll get ourselves taxied out. Now, the Spitz, of course, being a World War II era fighter, can be a bit of a swine to taxi. Now, you'll notice the first thing that really jumps out to me is the sound. It's kind of awful. It could definitely do with better sounds. The Mark 1 was the same. Once the engine's throttled up, it sounds okay, but here on the ground, at low RPM, I'm getting a lot of wind noise, but no actual real engine noise richness to this aircraft, which I think is a little lacking, really. And she's a little bit too free to taxi. That's something I'm noticing as well. Very, very quick and easy to roll. Okay. Let's see how authentic she is on her takeoff performance, shall we? So we'll go to 9.5 on the boost. Oh, there she is, and... oh, let's try to tip a wing over, as expected. We'll just ease back on the controls here and lift her up. Nicely done. Gear's going to be coming up. We've got our wing indicators there. You can see retreating into the wing. It's the old school way of seeing where your gear is. If it's up, it's down. If it's down, it's up. Of course, we don't have any flaps in. And we can now close our canopy here. Over the Menai Straits here in Anglesey. Head towards North Wales, give her a bit of a lick. And the Mark V had a bit more powerful Merlin engine, of course, and we had that 0G capable carburetor, which of course made it more and more deadly in a fight. It's a very nicely renditioned model. The sounds, I think, are not... they're not awful, but they're lacking. They could be so much better. The lower end volume is not quite as good, neither is the actual ferocity of it. These are rumbly, loud, angry engines. It doesn't feel quite as much as it's trying to throw itself at you. It's definitely better than the Airplane Heaven Spit. It's nowhere near as good as the Flying Iron Spit. Flying Iron are really the masters right now of the whirlbird in the sim. Nothing can quite compare to them. And I think they are what we generally compare to. Now, compared to the DCS Spitfire, it's like, I mean, everything we've had so far for MSFS is light years ahead. The DCS one flies horribly, or I don't really like how it flies personally. It's too twitchy and not very realistic to how a Spitfire actually flies. and it looks a lot worse. Now this one feels a little thin and a little bit wide compared to the Flying Iron, which does feel more compact inside. The real ones, of course, are quite condensed. You feel very kind of claustrophobic in there. Looks quite clean and new, which I guess at the time it would be. Obviously, if you want to fly a Warbird, a restored one, or a period aircraft, the period aircraft is going to be a lot cleaner initially, until you break it. Or you've been jumping in and out of the cockpit for scrambles. Things will get scratched and dirty. So to 0 on the boost there. Drop down to valley here. Take a bit of a spin around. We'll see how she really behaves herself. There we go. No engine loss there with a 0G kind of inverted push. It doesn't seem to like that in the slightest. It hated that. Interesting. Interesting indeed. It did not like that, and it should have been fine. So that's interesting. We lost RPM there and engine power, and it shouldn't have done that. So that's a fun one. Okay. I've been flying around here with some friends in the Flying Iron Spits. And their 109. Flying the Spitfire Mark 9 against the 109, however, is not a fair contest. The 109 gets dogpiled by that particular model of the 109 gets a little bit dogpiled by the Spitfire in terms of turning. You'll absolutely outdance it in a turn. The 109 really is an ambush fighter. Handling on this is nice. It's gentle. It's not too badly behaved. Not too well behaved either. She's got her nuances. We'll bring up and round and head towards Carnarvon here. Now, of course, for approach and landing, we'll be looking for about power on for about 85 and power off at 90 miles an hour. We're looking at 20 miles an hour crosswind max for the aircraft. We're looking at about 140 though for our actual approach. So it's undercarriage, pitch, and flaps is what we look for on our run in. So that's terrain here. Let's make sure our RPM is good. Head for the airport here. We'll do our run across. It's only a good looking aircraft. If you want a Spitfire that's more modern than the Mark 1, which is admittedly a very early model, and you want something more modern than the Mark 1, but you don't want to shell out for the realism and or money of the Flying Iron, this isn't a terrible option. I say the sounds aren't as good, and I would totally recommend the Mark 9, but they are more so a later Spitfire, and I don't personally always want to fly a later Spitfire. There are a lot of times where I want to fly something that's Battle of Britain era. In fact, I routinely want to. Those are my favourite Spitfires. I can't wait for the Hurricane we're getting soon. And the P-47 and the B-17. Oh God, it's going to be a good time to get British aircraft. Well, just aircraft in general for World War II stuff. Now, someone make a Blenheim and a Mosquito. Please. I know the Blenheims weren't popular, but I need one for reasons. And I need a 111. We have a decent Yonkers. You know, come on. In fact, you know what, Milviz, if you're out there, could Shrike make the Stuka again, please? Because your Stuka for FSX killed FSX because it was such a powerful, high-quality sim model that it murdered computers on FSX. Make it again for MSFS. Because your Saber's fantastic. Here we are. We'll drop down, we'll do a break over the field, we'll come in for a run, and we'll set up for our approach. Don't mind the gear warning horn. I'm kind of doing this on purpose. I'm on the wrong runway. That's awkward. But you know what? That's the one we took off on, so it's actually kind of fine. Watch out for those freaking windmills. I'm getting flashbacks to the end of the Dunkirk movie with Tom Hardy and his Spitfire with a basically the World War II equivalent of a no-scope, where he somehow manages to down a Stuka without actually having his engine on. So he dead stick kills a Stuka, and manages to fly to a landing. That is some serious skills. But a dead stick kill has to be some serious World War II swagger, I think, in that regard. So, okay, we're 180 flaps down. We're looking for 140 for our approach here. Yes, my gear is down, thank you. Okay, 140. Look at 140 here. Flaps are going to come down. We're going to drop it down now a little bit. There's a runway lining up there. Go a little bit further, then we'll begin our turn in. Power's coming off. We've got our speed bleed down to 100. We're looking for a 95 for this power off. So with our altitude, we should be good here. Power on here, we're going to be looking for 80, of course, with power on. We're going to need a little bit before we roll out of this. Looking good. A little bit rudder sensitive at low speed and high drag. Okay, we're a little quick here, but we'll bleed it off as we come towards the threshold. A little bit of power here to get some control over our flight surfaces. Bring the nose up. A little to the left there. Oh, come on, just drill to the left, thank you. Drifting around like a moron here. Not applied any brakes yet. No. Careful not to ground loop her, because she's a little bit tipsy-turvy. And we're on the grass. So I've already ruined this. She's very, very sensitive on landing. We'll spin her around, actually. We'll do another one here because I've got plenty of time for this. And I'd rather experiment with a better run. Just to compare. View as honestly as I can. Because I don't think I did the best job there. Winds are calm, so this is absolutely fine to do. Alright, let's prepare for the torque to kick in. Oh, flaps up. Stay straight, please, on the runway itself. Counter that roll, and up we come. We'll just do a straight out, turn around and come back and make the same exact run in. So, what is our speed right now? Looking at 100 we need. Okay, 100. So I'll break around here, we'll just do a loop quickly. Rejoin that downwind, set up in landing configuration, then we'll make that turn into final. The same as we just did, and we'll try and do that better. Because I did a horrible job of it, and I don't think it deserved that. It is very sensitive, though, on the gear. And very sensitive on the... It wants to rock over when you're basically in that position, so be very careful. Now, the real ones and the Hurricanes could pick their tail up if you went to full throttle stopped, which is often why you'd have ground crew holding those down when they did run-ups. So that's something to be aware of if you do run-ups. Okay. Bring that speed back here. Looking for 140 here on the downwind. We'll let ourselves extend outwards slightly because we're quite tight. Okay. Jolly good show. Speed's coming down. Gear is coming down. Yeah, the gear is out. There we go. Okay, 120, so flaps. Probably should leave the flaps till I'm final. I'm going to leave the flaps till I'm final. Give me some more maneuverability here. That prop is full forward and fine. Didn't do that. Okay, we're going to roll her in here. Keep a little power on this time. And those flaps can come out now. Little power here to counteract the big drag from those slabs under the wings. Not the best time to do it, but they're slabs. They're basically huge barn door slabs. We'll keep more of a curve on this approach this time. A little bit of slip, because I'm a lunatic, and I like it. Okay, let's let her drift down here. Okay, we're under 195, this is good. Keep that slip in position here while I just ride her down. That's more like it, baby. Come on. That's it. Dance to mama. Straighten up. And alley. Oop. Jolly good show. The RAF would be pleased with that one. Let's make sure we don't drift onto the grass this time. Keep more towards the centre line. Jolly good show. Turns out if I try to land like a normal human being, I suck at it. But if I bring her in at a slip, then we all have a wonderful time. Crack the canopy. Nice. Okay. She's responsive. She behaves well in the slip as well. Generally well behaved. Like I said, very tipsy-toesy on the ground. You have to be very careful with how much you brake. You can and will tip it over. You'll definitely ground loop this aircraft. Sounds are the worst part. Everything else is actually not bad. It's a good rendition. It's well made. I like it. It's just, like I say, the sound, the biggest problem, but it is quite cheap, so worth looking at. Is that the exit from the runway here? Well, it's blocked off, but it'll do for parking for now. Let's stop her here. Not going to apply too much brake. Come on. There we go. And pop that on. What do I think? Well, I think they've done a decent job. It's a more... Oh, yes, of course. If you don't have a pilot visible, you can click here. And your pilot appears. It's a period World War II one, which is fantastic. And if I wonder if this is the same as the Milviz. No, the mask is just off, I think, on this chap. But it's a more period Spitfire than the Mark 9, an earlier model, but later than the Mark 1s and 2s. So, not bad, actually, like their other one. Definitely not bad, worth a crack, but better than Aeroplane Heaven, not as good as Flying Iron. Thanks for watching. Bye!